All right, guys, we've got some exciting news when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, so let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start off with more big AAA titles slated and hinted for the Nintendo Switch 2. This is definitely exciting because one of the things that we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1 was that it took a bit of time before the third-party developers really rolled in because of the development atmosphere, the system power, various other factors. But with the Nintendo Switch 2, we're seeing considerable more third-party support in addition to announcements even before the system is launched. Shout outs to my man Stealth once again. He caught this over there on Ubisoft Brazil, and apparently Ubisoft Brazil is pretty much already leaking out more games are coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. But to be honest, some of these games were already kind of leaked or rumored beforehand. Looks like Ubisoft Brazil was just cleaning up when it comes down to it. So it seems like they did confirm that Rainbow Six Siege and Assassin's Creed Mirage are also coming to Nintendo Switch 2. They asked what games people would like to see on Switch 2, and they used this image that you guys are seeing. Now, we already know that Assassin's Creed Shadows was rated by the PEGI for the Nintendo Switch 2, so somebody officially from Ubisoft went to PEGI and did put in the money, dropped it for the rating, so that's definitely going to be happening. That's the European rating board and all that, so that's going to be happening. So I think that Ubisoft Brazil pretty much knows, and I don't really think that it's a big secret or anything like that. We know that Ubisoft is bringing over more games to the Nintendo Switch 2. We know that they like the system. It's already been rumored. I think Nate the Hate also talked about it in terms of Assassin's Creed Shadows. There's been some other leaks when it comes to retail SKUs and things like that. We already know that Star Wars Outlaws is coming. So yeah, this makes complete sense that games like Assassin's Creed Mirage, a smaller, more tight Assassin's Creed experience, in addition to one of their most successful games of all time, Rainbow Six Siege, has been a beast in terms of the amount that it's sold, but also just people playing the game. Longevity-wise, people have been playing Rainbow Six Siege for years now at this point. I actually used to watch a lot of Rainbow Six Siege on Twitch, but I do think that a lot of you guys might be interested in a game like Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's not the RPG or super long bloated type of Assassin's Creed experience. If you like the more traditional Assassin's Creed games, then maybe Assassin's Creed Mirage would be really cool to play on the Nintendo Switch if you haven't played it yet. Same goes for Rainbow Six Siege. Might be pretty cool to play something like that. There are not a lot of games that we know that are announced for the Nintendo Switch 2 that are like Rainbow Six Siege, so I think that would be nice. Obviously, Star Wars Outlaws, we got to wait and see that game. It's getting a bit better with some of the patches. Had a rough launch, but it's a bit better now at this point. And of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which recently launched to some pretty good success overall. So I do think that all of these games from Ubisoft would be great to have come over, and I would love to see Ubisoft and more developers just kind of put out the great stuff or whatever they've got. They're good games for the Nintendo Switch 2. One of the most crucial things in a platform in its first year is definitely having a consistent flow of games, but then also having enough games to satisfy in between the big Nintendo first-party games. How Nintendo operates is a little bit different than how Microsoft and Sony, not even a little bit, a lot bit different overall, where first-party games are 100% the big thing with Nintendo systems, and then of course the third party kind of come in and fill in the gaps here and there. So it looks like there's going to be more gaps that are filled in when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 lineup that will probably be announced later at Nintendo Directs, or just maybe even randomly on Twitter sometimes, because that's how it happens. But also, what's not random is all the people that are hitting that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. So hit that sub button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop. Now, we do have an update on the Chrono Trigger remake story that went out yesterday, and I'm terribly sorry about this because it actually ended up being that it was the interpreter that made a joke or made a mistake in terms of what Mr. Yuji Horii had to say at the Italian Comic-Con. So the original story was that at the Italian Comic-Con in Naples, Yuji Horii came out and essentially confirmed that there is a Chrono Trigger remake, which sent the internet into a tizzy. I saw multiple videos, I made my own video, I saw multiple articles, but it was the interpreter who kind of added that in to rile the audience up, and I'm guessing he didn't expect for it to be filmed and put up on the internet, which I'm not sure why he wouldn't expect something like that, but yeah, it was the interpreter that actually ended up adding that in. Mr. Yuji Horii did not say that, which in my video I said, like, this has to be something to where he did on purpose, right? Because Yuji Horii been at this for a very long time. There's no way that he wouldn't purposefully say something or hint if Square Enix and him didn't want everyone to know that it was a possibility or that they are working on it. So I still feel that there might be something in the works for Chrono Trigger considering the PC update. I know it's been years since then, but with the Nintendo Switch 2 coming up, obviously Bravely Default HD Remaster, that coming back after quite some time where they did nothing with that original Nintendo 3DS game, I do think it's possible to see revitalizations and rebirths of older Nintendo or Nintendo-based hardware types of games coming back on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I do think that's absolutely a possibility here, but once again, we're gonna have to wait and see overall, but I still think that Chrono Trigger Remake, I'm not giving up the hope just yet, just like I never gave up the hope for Xenoblade Chronicles X coming back. And I do think that Chrono Trigger at some point will. Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time, and I think that it's just too good to just sit there and leave it and not do anything. So we'll see what happens in the future. But next up, we're going to talk about the reconfirmation of the 12 free update Nintendo Switch 2 upgrades for games. So for those who don't know, I've covered this before, but Nintendo actually reconfirmed it. It was something that was kind of going up everywhere around the internet, and I want to make sure people do know about this, because anytime that I post about it on Twitter, people like the post and people say, oh wow, I didn't know that was happening, or people complain that it's not other games. So let's just first preface this by saying this is not the only 12 according to Nintendo, or the only games according to Nintendo. They never said this was it. There's probably going to be more free update games in the future, but for right now, in terms of launch, these are the 12 games that we're going to be getting at launch with free updates that are going to add features, potential resolution bumps, frame rate bumps, things like that. Now, they're not fully Nintendo Switch 2 edition games with content and other stuff and massive improvements like we're seeing with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom or anything like that, but these are still nice improved games that will probably smooth things out considerably and once again add the features in here. So this is coming from Nintendo, quote, free updates to improve playability on the Nintendo Switch 2 system will be released for select Nintendo Switch games. By connecting your Nintendo Switch 2 to the internet, you can download these free updates that may improve performance or add support for features such as game share in select games. The contents of these free updates will differ depending on the game. So you've got ARMS, Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that's a big one. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, that's also another big one because Bowser's Fury only runs at 30 frames per second in portable mode. Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which both of those are incredible, especially Echoes of Wisdom. I'm definitely going to go back and play that more. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, and Game Builder Garage. Now, I know that New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, people are wondering why that game, why not Super Mario Bros. Wonder? Wonder already has online play, and I still think that in the future it might get something, but New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe does not. So if you have Game Share, you can do Game Share and play online with that game, and that's still one of Nintendo's best-selling Nintendo Switch 1 titles, so I can see why they wanted to have that game added in with Game Share, becomes online at that point if you want to share it with your family and friends. Same thing goes for Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics. That game already has online, but it'd be really cool if you can just say, hey, look, let's all just play this game right here, Game Share. I think it works, and they actually demoed that, or they showed it off as one of the Game Share features in one of the Game Share games in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So it makes sense when it comes down to it. But yeah, I think that for most people, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that's going to be a huge one. Obviously, the much, I would say, delayed or the much like anticipated performance patch is finally here. We'll see how they do though. Will it bump it up to 60? Is it going to be a lock 30? We don't really know on that, so I'll have to wait before I really say, okay, here we go, this is great, right? But at least we know, hey, look, it's coming at some point, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are actually good games, but the problem is the frame rate, and obviously the graphics aren't the best, but the frame rate is an issue in so many places. So if they can smooth that out, it becomes a much more playable and better game. Same thing goes for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening as well. But for me, Echoes of Wisdom, so many frame rate drops when you're moving in the overworld, and it would just hitch, and it just wasn't necessarily a great experience for that style of game overall with those graphics and that type of gameplay. So it was still fun, don't get me wrong, like I enjoyed it and I thought that it was good, but having that smoothed out to 60 everywhere, that's going to be a really big boon for the game, so I'm excited for that. Game Builder Garage could be pretty cool with game share and stuff like that too. So we'll see how people react to all this, and we'll see how the quality of each one of these are. I do think people might go back and play Super Mario Odyssey as well, because Super Mario Odyssey, fantastic game, and it already runs really good. It targets 60 frames per second, and I think it's like 900p docked and like 540p-ish or so in the portable mode. But I think if you can bump that up to a native 1080p in terms of handheld, in addition to having a DLSS 4K or something like that, or just native 1080p even docked, I think that would improve the experience and just smooth out that frame rate to 60 flat no matter what. That would increase people going back and saying, okay, let's play some Super Mario Odyssey, because the game has been selling throughout the entirety of the Nintendo Switch's life since it launched back in October of 2017. So once again, exciting to see these updates. Even if you're not excited to get Mario Kart or some of the games that are launching, you can go back and play some of these previous Nintendo Switch 1 games and get a much better experience. So it just makes the launch even that much better compared to what we've had before in the past. So what do you guys think about these updates when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 1 games for the Nintendo Switch 2? You can let me know in the comment section. But now we're going to get into the final topic here, and that is a hotfix to fix some of the issues that we had with the recent Nintendo Switch update, the big one, 20.0, which added the virtual game card feature and other things. We do have a fix for that, because some reported big error codes that would cause the system to not boot up and stuff like that. So we definitely have a fix for that. Now, at this point, Nintendo's released version 20.0.1, and in the notes it says, fix an issue where error code 2206-1015 sometimes occurred when restarting the system after updating to the system version 20.0.0. So of course, if you're encountering the issue, there's more information on Nintendo's site. But yeah, it's just one of those things to where when they released that update, I talked about this, where you would test it a million times. There would be no problems whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that they tested it on every single Nintendo Switch, an OLED, a Switch Lite, a Switch version 1, a Switch version 2, like everything. They probably tested it and everything was fine. And for most people, it works just fine. But there's always going to be certain little things here and there that can cause some problems depending on maybe what someone's downloaded, what's going on with the system at the time that they download the update. It's almost impossible to test for every single certain scenario in case, considering how many people have the system. So it's cool that they're actually able to get an update out so quick, just because this issue did pop up just recently where people were complaining about it, and they were pretty fast to fix it overall. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The virtual game card system is actually pretty cool. I've been playing around with it more just on my free time whenever I get a chance. It's actually a pretty cool thing. I know some people kind of complained about the lack of the old method in terms of game sharing and online, but I talked about how I never actually got that to work myself. And really, this just makes it way easier. You can just put it on a different system if you have another Switch or somebody else and just load it up, or the family accounts. So for me, it actually worked pretty well. And I think that it's better just so I can access my digital games on my dashboard and not have to go to re-download on the eShop page, like where you go to the re-download, just because it takes longer. Now, we know with the Nintendo Switch 2, this is going to also be pretty cool, because it's going to have that same thing, and you're going to be able to instantly access those games and say, okay, I want to download them on my Nintendo Switch 2. So that is the big thing here, why I like what's going on. The Nintendo Switch 2 eShop is apparently getting an upgrade as well in terms of the speed and everything. So I don't think it'd be too bad if you had to go to the eShop on Nintendo Switch 2 to do the re-downloads, but it just makes it more seamless and better with this new system and this new update. So I do like what they actually ended up doing here. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting once the Switch 2 comes out and seeing how that system runs and how fast it is compared to the Nintendo Switch 1, how long it takes to load the games, how long it takes to get onto the eShop and stuff like that, and how this update affects where they go from here at this point. Because the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have everything that was brought over from the Nintendo Switch 1 and then some. Then they're going to probably add other features and other things as well. So that's going to be very fun to see what else is happening. They already have the game chat, they already have the game share, they already have a bunch of cool features already in, but we'll see what else kind of pops up throughout the life of the Nintendo Switch 2 as we get really close to the launch here, man. We are super close, about a month away. It's going to be a great launch overall so far from what I'm seeing. But What do you guys think about everything that we talked about here? There was a lot of topics with new games, in addition to updates overall. No Chrono Trigger remake for right now, at least. And of course, free updated games and all that. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.